If getting a house is not a prerequisite for marriage, then who would be willing to buy a house? At this time, someone may ask, don't you also own a house? Are you not married yet? That's right, I spent all my money on the house. How could I have any money left to get married? So now I feel that it's really difficult for ordinary people to get married on their own. Do you know how difficult it is for an ordinary boy to get married now? Take me as an example. My family's conditions were ordinary and I dropped out of junior high school. I have been working in society for a few years. In a blink of an eye, I'm in my 20s. That year, I came into contact with buying a house for the first time. The reason was very simple. Just to get married. Whether you can afford it or not, the reality is, the prerequisite for getting married now is to have a wedding house. Don't argue with me. How many people have you seen living in a rented house? So many boys are like me. They don't have the financial strength, but bite the bullet because reality forces us to do this. Some netizens said that due to limited economic conditions, they did not dare to consider big cities when buying a house and can only buy a house in a remote small county. Every time he mentioned this address to his blind date, he had to be careful, fearing that the other party would think it was too far away. Since we failed to choose a good location for the wedding house, can we work hard to make up for it in other aspects? For example, betrothal gifts, hardware, etc. However, the reality is that his money has been used to pay off the mortgage over the years, and he has almost no savings. Therefore, there is no marriage yet. In the past, the cost of marriage was low, and even ordinary young people could get married through hard work. Nowadays, many boys are faced with the dilemma of not being able to afford to get married. Many people believe that over time, marriage seems to have become a high-risk, high-cost investment, which scares many young people away. In addition to economic pressure, the population ratio can also explain why China's marriage rate is declining yearly. According to data from the 7th National Census in 2021, there are 34.9 million more men than women in China. Especially in the marriageable age group of 20 to 40, 17.52 million more men than women. This problem is particularly prominent in rural areas. In some rural areas, the ratio of men to women is as high as 130 to 100, resulting in a large number of rural men unable to find marriage partners, forming so-called bachelor villages. The outside world has noticed that in some villages in Anhui and Yunnan, it's very common for men to be unable to find a marriage partner. This is not only related to the imbalance of gender ratio, but also closely related to the outflow of rural women. Many rural women marry men of higher socioeconomic status in economically developed cities to pursue better living conditions. However, men in rural areas have to take care of their elders, making it more difficult for them to find a suitable marriage partner. The outside world believes that the marital difficulties of older rural men are the epitome of current social problems. For some men, marriage has not only become a heavy burden, but also made them feel depressed and helpless. Do you know how much it costs to find a wife in rural areas now? My uncle's cousin is 29 years old this year. When he went home for a blind date during the Chinese New Year, he was shocked by the woman's request. The woman's bride price requirement is as high as US $25,400. In addition, she also requires 3 pieces of gold, including a gold necklace, a gold ring, and gold earrings, which cost approximately US $5,600. In addition, we are required to buy a house of more than 90 square meters in the county. According to the house price in our hometown, the minimum standard house costs US $76,100. Including decoration costs, the total is about US $84,600. Although the woman has no requirements for the car brand, she does need a mobility scooter worth at least US $11,300. The cost of a wedding should not be underestimated. According to the minimum standard, banquets, tobacco, alcoholic beverages, etc. cost US $112 per table, and a family needs at least 20 tables, totaling about US $2,800. In addition, wedding photos, wedding cars, makeup, etc. also cost almost US $2,800. Calculated in this way, including the house, bride price, car, 3 gold items, banquets and weddings, all the expenses add up to approximately US $132,500. For rural families like us, this is an astronomical figure, especially since my uncle has been farming all his life and now he's so anxious that he can't sleep all night to raise the money. I just realized this situation after they called me last night to borrow money. Surprisingly, the woman's request is quite normal for us, and she is said to be very considerate of our man. It's true that it's becoming more and more difficult to find a wife, and there are more and more bachelors in the village. The reality makes people feel helpless.
真的娶不起。
现在真正的农民
Nowadays, the annual income of real farmers is usually only 10,000 to 20,000 yuan, which is barely enough to maintain food and clothing. For children in rural areas, getting married is the biggest problem, especially those with poor family conditions. Even if some parents buy a house and a car for their children, the children may still not be able to find a wife. Nowadays, some parents even borrow money to raise a family for their children, but such efforts often backfire. The current social situation is not as simple as in the past. Marriage is not just about starting a family. Where once marriage meant spending a lifetime together, now the durability of marriage has become unpredictable. Sometimes marriages only last a few months or half a year. Nowadays, girls generally hope to find a partner with superior financial conditions, and many are unwilling to accept difficult living conditions. Therefore, if the family's economic conditions are average, there is no need to blindly spend huge sums of money to marry a wife, as this is often not worth the gain.
人财两空，不值得。
Some netizens reveal that the probability of getting married is even lower if there are two sons in the family.
农村的男孩子呢，现在结婚真的
It's really difficult for boys in rural areas to get married now, especially those in families with brothers. Do you know? The hardest thing is the situation with two brothers. If you go on a blind date, once the woman knows that you have brothers in your family, she will either ask for a very high bride price or simply refuse to meet him. Regardless of whether you have an older brother or younger brother, or whether your brother is married or not, many girls will choose to avoid him. Even if you have been in love for many years and no matter how good your relationship is, you will still not be accepted in the end. Why? Because this means that your parents' property will be divided between the two brothers, which will leave less for you. Naturally, the woman doesn't want to. Nowadays, getting married has to face this reality. Whether in rural or urban areas, when looking for a partner, everyone hopes to find someone more valuable than themselves. A person with a monthly salary of several $100s wants to find someone with a monthly salary of thousands, and a person who is 1.5 meters tall wants to find someone with a height of 1.8 meters. He has no house, car, or savings, but he wants the other person to have everything. The problem is that everyone is unwilling to compromise or make do, so what will the result be? The marriage rate is declining year by year.
每个人都不愿意将就，怎么办呢？
It's reported that the high cost of marriage, such as high housing prices and high marriage gifts, may even exhaust the savings of 3 generations, causing many people to feel great pressure. Many people therefore choose to give up, preferring not to get married and pursue personal freedom and a relaxed life. I am almost 40 years old and still not married. Why? Because in Shanghai, the cost of getting married is too high, often costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have also said that the main reason for not marrying a local girl is the cost. If you want to marry a local girl from Shanghai, the mother-in-law will often have very high requirements for the house. Generally speaking, the price is more than $1 million or even tens of millions. As for cars costing tens of thousands of dollars are almost basic. These high requirements make the cost of marriage unaffordable. In northeast China, Zhang Yu, 32, who works in the infrastructure industry, said frankly in an interview with Voice of America, "Marriage, childbirth, buying a house, and buying a car are all liabilities and an overdraft for the future. In the economic downturn, it's not easy to increase revenue, so reducing expenditures becomes the only option." Although Zhang Yu participated in projects led by enterprises directly under the central government and his work seemed respectable, even so his industry also suffered significant salary cuts. Zhang Yu said that wages have been generally dropped by 30%. He is glad he is not married and does not have children yet, otherwise he would be in big trouble. 27-year-old Zhang Zhexi is from Beijing and currently lives with her parents. She laughs at herself as a social failure. She said that now she has no job and cannot find an intimate partner, but compared to getting married, being single is more acceptable. If one person is full, the whole family will not be hungry. Some men find it difficult to find a suitable wife because of their age.
我今年呢41岁。
I am 41 years old this year, owning multiple properties and a car. If I don't work and only rely on rent income, I can earn several thousand yuan every month. Currently, I am doing software development with an annual salary of 300,000, and my family is in the city. However, even though I have these conditions, it's very difficult for older men to find a partner. This made the marriage market especially tough for me.
特别难找，非常尴尬的一个年龄。然后呢，就是我们婚恋观呢。
Generally speaking, it's acceptable for boys to be about 5 years older than girls, but if girls are older than boys, even if they are only 2 or 3 years older, many people will not be able to accept it. In most cases, it's a common combination for boys to be 2 or 3 years older than girls. So I'm having some trouble now. I am 41 years old this year. If I want to find a partner, the suitable girls are probably between 35 and 41 years old. However, there are very few unmarried women in this age group, and most of them have already married and had children. Most of those not yet married are considered to be older leftover women. Their requirements are particularly high, and the conditions become more stringent year by year. At this age, many women pay more attention to material and economic conditions, but do not care much about spiritual feelings. Therefore, marriage is about conditions, and marriage is just the result. In this case, finding the right match is difficult for me, and I can hardly find the right person. If I'm looking for a girl between 30 and 35 years old, my age becomes an issue again. Even if the girl agrees, her family may think I am too old. This makes me even more helpless in the marriage market.
别人家里面也不同意，为什么？嫌弃你年龄太大了。
Today's parents are also facing tremendous pressure, especially those with sons.
今天有一个姐姐跟我说，她有2个儿子。
A friend recently told me that she has 2 sons. To save money, she is reluctant to buy delicious food and clothes and even dares not travel. Spending money recklessly felt like a sin to her. She believes that all her savings should be used to send her children to school, hoping that they can go to a good university and find a good job in the future. She even saved tens of thousands of dollars in bride price so that her children could successfully marry a wife and create a happy future for themselves. Every parent hopes to see their children happy and live a happy life during their lifetime. This is the wish of all parents. However, the reality is very cruel. Even if you prepared a house, a car, and a generous bride price for your child, many girls' demands seem unrealistic nowadays. Some girls often don't have high requirements for their conditions, but they are picky about others. This is confusing. What gives them such courage? Finding a suitable partner is becoming increasingly difficult.
想找一个正常的女孩，太难了。
Data shows that the trend of not getting married in China is becoming increasingly significant. The China Population and Employment Statistics Yearbook 2023 pointed out that in 2022, the unmarried rate in China's 25 to 29-year-old age group will reach 51.3%, while the unmarried rate in the 30 to 34-year-old age group will be 18.4%. In particular, the news that the unmarried rate among 25 to 29-year-olds exceeds 50% has triggered widespread discussion. Many netizens believe that the unmarried rate may continue to rise. Others said, "Getting married will only make me deeply in debt. Why should I get married?" This type of message received a lot of thumbs up. Faced with this reality, local governments have introduced policies to encourage marriage. For example, Changshan, Zhejiang Province launched a policy that newlyweds under the age of 25 can receive a 1,000 yuan reward. However, these measures have limited effect and have not been effective in promoting young people to get married. Technology blogger Jianghu Li Fuxiang said, "Do you need to push for marriage? Who wouldn't pick up money on the ground?" This view has also gained widespread support. It's generally believed that financial pressure is the main reason why young people are unwilling to get married. Some netizens pointed out that the one-child policy in Northeast China is thoroughly implemented. After the marriage, the financial burden of the 4 elderly people on both sides fell on the couple, doubling the pressure. In 2023, China's economy faced multiple challenges, such as the recession in the real estate industry, local debt problems, and high youth unemployment. Young people are pessimistic about their future, marriage, and life. Although we have entered 2024, economic experts are still not optimistic about China's economic recovery prospects, and many predict that this year's economic growth rate will be lower than that in 2023. In addition, some people said that although her parents can now afford living expenses, the family's financial situation is not well off, and getting married means more expenses. Xu Feng, a University of California, Berkeley lecturer, pointed out that the high youth unemployment rate directly affects the marriage rate. She said that many young people cannot afford betrothal gifts or home purchases. The COVID-19 pandemic has also profoundly impacted the concept of marriage. Especially after the lockdown was lifted in early 2023, the voices urging marriage gradually disappeared. Nowadays, many people choose to live a makeshift life, and the concept of marriage has changed. In cities, women are also called leftover women, which has attracted attention. In the dating market, 9 women often compete for 1 man. What's the reason behind this? On the one hand, although cities do not pay much attention to bride prices, economic conditions are still an important criterion for women to choose a marriage partner. Urban women often hope to find men with higher academic qualifications and financial status than themselves, which leads to the phenomena of leftover women. Especially in the dating market in big cities, parents pay more attention to the man's high education, high income, real estate, and car ownership. In contrast, a woman's high education may become a negative in choosing a mate. One of the root causes of the problem is a serious imbalance in the ratio of men to women. The reason for this imbalance can be traced back to China's one-child policy. Since the implementation of the family planning policy in 1979, the sex ratio of newborns has been seriously imbalanced, and selective abortion has significantly increased the proportion of boys born. This not only led to the emergence of a large number of bachelors, but also triggered a series of social problems, including alcoholism, gambling, and women's trafficking. The Beijing authorities have introduced a series of policies to stimulate fertility. The CCP has always regarded Chinese people as a means of production, not as living lives. This is also the main reason for the large number of social problems in China today.